This generation can't speak to save their life. They really lack basic communication and comprehension skills. And sometimes it is as if they've never been to school. See, I'm a part of a lot of communities, right? Mental health communities, youth conventions. And whenever I attend them, whether it's online or whether it's in real life, and people come up to me because I am a public figure, I can see that they have so many ideas in their mind, so many things they want to say, but nothing comes out. Or something very incoherent comes out and they notice it themselves and then it zaps their confidence and then they either walk away or they just stand there completely shell-shocked. And I was thinking about this because I was like, how did this generation get to this point? Because we've got access to so many things. We've got access to information. You've got access to videos like this. You've got access to books. Once upon a time, for example, our parents and their parents, information was hard to come by. Bro, you have to go to a library, walk to a library just to get one book, just to read. Or if you go way back, you had to travel maybe on a horse or some other mode of transport just to get one piece of information. So if they were incoherent and if they struggled to communicate, I totally hear it. But what's the problem with this generation? Because I can promise you, if you take away one thing from this video, maybe this will force you to actually get out there and develop your communication skills. I can wholeheartedly say the quality of your life will be determined by your communication skills. I have many friends, many acquaintances. I've been around many people. The moment I stand and we are having a conversation and I notice that you struggle when it comes to communicate, you've probably lost 40% of your earning capacity. You've probably reduced the success of your relationships by like 30 or 40%. People don't acknowledge just how important this is. If you think about it, the reason why I said you slash your earning capacity, when you are in the world of work, or even if you have a business, either or, you're going to have to communicate your point across. You're going to be in meetings. Someone's going to ask you, oh, Dino, what do you think? The moment people sense that, especially in corporate or high stakes situations, they're going to make a judgment in their mind. They've got a mental checklist, mental notebook. They're like, okay, Dino doesn't really know how to speak properly. So if you're in the world of work, in the corporate space, and let's say there's a round of promotion coming up, you're not going to be considered. Same thing when it comes to business. The success of a business is reflecting on the owner or the founder, especially in this day and age, where you have to do some sort of content creation and you have to also pitch it to people, even when it comes to investors. How can you stand in front of an investor as someone who's incoherent, that isn't articulate, and you're trying to convince them to give you their money? It just doesn't work. Also, relationships, right? I'm just talking to you guys about the severity of this. You could be in a relationship with someone, and a lot of people don't know how to communicate in relationships, by the way. So you might have a problem with someone. Why are you going to go and attack them? Because you know, or I know at least, from a psychological point of view, when you attack someone, they are going to be defensive. They're not going to hear your point. You never listen. You're always rude. You always neglect me. Say that to me. I'm just going to be defensive. And I never did that. What are you talking about? I'm not rude. You're not going to get your point across. Same thing with kids. If you have kids and God blesses you with kids, and I hope God blesses all of you guys with kids, inshallah, right? How are you going to speak to your child? Especially when they are in their teenage years and they're very hormonal. The child comes home and they say, Dad, I went into trouble today and, I lost XYZ. You don't know how to communicate effectively, so what do? You let your emotions rise up, you start bickering and shouting. The point I'm making overall to kickstart this video is your ability to communicate will affect the quality of your life, and that's it. So where did this go wrong though? Because I'm around a lot of good speakers, articulate speakers. I'm probably one of the worst in my group, which is a good thing because it always allows me to level up. And I noticed a lot of these people are self-learners. They actually take it upon themselves to learn and develop and also put themselves in a lot of uncomfortable situations. But for the average Gen Z individual, right, I noticed social media is the number one culprit. Let's just address the elephant in the room. And when it comes to social media, I'll give you guys a tip, right, in case you want to know how to use social media in a healthier way. Most people, when they consume content, they consume short form. I think we can all agree. I am someone that creates content on TikTok. Occasionally, I do consume content. But one thing I noticed is, because I've got multiple reference points, When I'm consuming short form content, most viral content I see on my feed are from people that are poor communicators. So what does that mean for me? If I consume this regularly, what are my inputs? I'm just consuming people that speak in a type of way, use slangs, use filler words, and I'm just gonna adapt. I'm just gonna take it in. So now when you see the average kid, they just speak in TikTok language. Charge it, bro. Yeah, you hear my man. Now it's calm. You know what I'm saying, bro. You feel me? And I heard this new one recently called Gara. It makes me laugh. Apparently it means guaranteed or something. The point I'm making is code switching is good. When I'm speaking to my friends, I don't really speak in a very articulate way. Code switching is a complete different skill you learn. But if you are consuming content, the very least you can do if you're someone that struggles to not be on their phone is consume content that's beneficial. Listen to people that are articulate. Listen to people that actually make sense when they speak. So now when you're picking up on their phrases and their cadences and their tendencies, it makes a lot of sense. But if you're there, just sat there, consuming entertainment upon entertainment upon entertainment, not only are you frying your dopaminergic receptors, you're also adapting and developing poor language habits. That's the first thing. Number two, because of social media, nowadays people don't want to even engage in real life conversations. You know the scariest thing to me as someone who's always outside? I genuinely hate social media. I hate the world of this digital age. I don't use any of these apps. For example, people say, yo, I'm on these dating apps or I'm on these meetup apps. I don't use any of these things. I would rather see how the world works in real life. So what I noticed is, which is very scary to me, is when you talk to someone, I like talking to strangers. I kind of get a buzz out of it because not only is it improving my confidence and also my tolerance to rejection, it also makes me feel human. If I'm talking to people that I don't know, it actually makes me feel human because I'm like, you know what? People actually exist. But what I noticed is sometimes when I talk to people, because we've been tapped into this device for so long, people think it is a crime to talk to them. Have you ever gone up to someone or you've ever spoken to someone randomly on the street and they look at you and they're shocked that you're speaking to them? I'll reenact the typical situation. Oh, hey, I really like your trainers, bro. Huh? They take out their earphones or they take their headphones off. What did you say, bro? I said, I really like your trainers. Where did you get them from? I got them from so-and-so. Do you see how crazy that is? We've reached a point in society where people think it is so foreign to see another human open their mouth. And it's only going to get worse, guys, right? It's only going to get worse. Because we're so glued to this device and we would rather text someone on Instagram or TikTok or WhatsApp and maybe FaceTime, whatever it may be. Some people don't even like FaceTiming. But the point I'm making is, because we're so tapped in, we've forgotten what it's like to have conversations with people in real life. So the problem is a lot of people have rust. They are so rusty when it comes to human interactions. So now when you go outside and you try to speak to people, not only has your capacity or your ability to speak completely disintegrated and diminished, you don't even feel human being around humans. That's what they call social anxiety, which is a man-made construct. Doesn't even make sense, right? You go outside after so long and everyone feels foreign to you. And this is the byproduct of always being online, chronically online. Not even to say that your opinions become narrative-based. You can't think for yourself. Your ideas are not original to you. Every single thing you believe has been downloaded into your system, not something you've actually gone out there and fact-checked. And I've noticed this amongst this generation. One thing that I pride myself in is I don't debate people. I don't engage with people in the comments, especially I'm talking about people that try to get a conversation out of you. I don't respond to most of my DMs. People always ask me why. We've reached a point in society where critical thinking and logical thinking is something of the past, is a relic. So now when you're talking to people and they comment on my post or they DM me something, I've realized that we've reached a point in society where someone asks me, oh bro, how do I use the internet? Oh bro, how do I go outside and say hello to someone? You walk out of your door, granted that you've got nice clothes on, you go up to someone, you say, hey, I hope you have a good day today. And that's the problem. And now when you see what social media has caused, it has now led to this thing which I don't like talking about a lot, which is the I don't care attitude that kids have nowadays. You try to advise a kid between the age of 15, even up to 30, to develop themselves. And because they've been online for so long and they've developed this sense of learned helplessness, I noticed that they don't even care anymore. You know, the whole nonchalant attitude. Why do I need to speak to someone? There's no point. I don't care about people. And this kind of affects your mindset because you don't want to develop anymore. You found comfort in being a bum. You found comfort in being someone that's not good at speaking, someone that's not good at socializing, and you've accepted it because all of a sudden you've got this status online. God forbid. There's so many people I used to know, right, that had so many followers on Twitter. They talk a lot. They have so many opinions on the internet. But the moment they step outside, I don't know who these people are around me. It's as if they've seen ghosts. And as I said, it's only going to get worse. Another thing that I noticed along with this nonchalant gimmick is this generation doesn't know how to have a healthy confrontation. See, in life, one thing I'm going to tell you guys for free is there's going to be many situations where you need to confront someone or something. Let's say you are at work and let's say your boss has been playing around with the rota. You don't like it. You're going to have to confront them. Let's say a friend has done something or continues to do something, but they may be oblivious to it. Sometimes in life, the more you experience, you end up realizing that not everyone understands or sees the world the same way you do. So whilst acknowledging this, someone may act in a type of way that you don't necessarily like. But one thing I noticed, which really bothers me, is this generation, they don't like actually speaking about it, having a healthy confrontation with the other person. They would just rather cut them off. And I reverse engineered it, and I know why. You don't have the weaponry, you don't have the ability to have a healthy discussion without letting your ego and emotions kick in. So then you end up saying things like, you always violate, you're just a loser. Why do you always do this? Because that's the only things you know. You're very reactionary. You don't know how to communicate in a healthy way whilst respecting the other person's boundaries and also educating them. And guess what? Even if the person doesn't fall in line, even if the person doesn't follow what it is you said after the healthy confrontation, your actions are then justified. I've seen many cases in work. I've worked in many companies, right? For many companies. And the one thing I dislike, which I think is very distasteful, I don't care how you see it, by the way, is when people leave jobs without having that conversation with their manager, especially if it's a corporate job, especially if it's a good job. I notice what people tend to do is because they don't like confrontation, because they don't know how to communicate, they don't know how to regulate their emotions, what they end up doing is some sneaky stuff like they would book holidays and then they would just end up sending an email randomly. They won't turn up to work or they would miss a few days. HR management is chasing you up and you're like, yeah, hey, I just quit. It's because you don't want to have that healthy confrontation. Someone watching this video right now may think, oh, that's not that deep. Work doesn't matter. Okay, I'll tell you where it matters. You're in a relationship with someone, whether you're a man or a woman. You're going to have healthy confrontations with your partner. What are you going to do? Just cut them off and leave? How many partners are you going to run through? The point I'm making is, because this generation has become so sensitive, social media has made you very sensitive, it's made you very dysfunctional emotionally. So now what happens is, the very moment you feel discomfort, you don't feel like you have the ability to communicate how you are feeling and how you see things in a correct and effective way because you don't know how to have that mind-to-mouth connection. This comes full circle. I've seen it with my two eyes. People that have been friends for a very long time, one of them starts doing something that the person doesn't like, and because they don't know how to communicate it to that person, they're like, yeah, I'm just not going to talk to them. What is wrong with us? We've become so animalistic in our ways. And the younger generation thinks this is normal. They call it valuing yourself, protecting your peace. No, you're not protecting anything. All you're doing is increasing your anxiety and overthinking. There's a concept I'm very vocal about called open loops, right? A lot of people don't acknowledge that if you're not able to have healthy confrontations, you're going to have a lot of open loops in your life. The friend that you're ghosting right now is an open loop. It's taking up space in your mind, which means you're going to overthink, you're going to have anxiety because you don't know what the outcome is. Oh, I'm ghosting them. I feel good about myself. But then in the back of your head, you're like, I wonder how they received it. I wonder how they're reacting. Why aren't they messaging me? This problem just continues. And this is another byproduct of being a poor communicator. And if you now look at it from a holistic point of view, the reason why loneliness has increased is probably because people don't know how to communicate. Everyone's so scared. They've become so sensitive. And couple this with the fact that you can't communicate, people would much rather convince themselves that it is better being alone. And the reason why you feel comfortable being alone is because you've got your phone. I guarantee you, if social media ceased to exist, a lot of people would go outside and loneliness wouldn't exist anymore. We've normalized things that are so bad. We've normalized things that should have stayed alien forever, right? There's people that are sitting at home right now that don't want to have healthy confrontations with people that have probably done them wrong. You don't want to vocalize how you feel. You don't want to get what it is you want to get because you don't feel confident enough in your ability to communicate it. You don't even want to have conversations with your family because you feel misunderstood. But the reality is you don't know how to communicate and no one understands you. How many of you guys can relate to that? You know, I've seen families, people DM me, by the way, mums and dads, and they're always talking to me. I know that parents sometimes have a fault, but the common denominator based on what parents always tell me is my son or my daughter just doesn't communicate. Whenever I talk to them, it's like I'm talking to a wall. A lot of young kids don't know how to communicate anymore. You know, you talk to them and they're like, I'm good. Yeah, so what have you been working on? Yeah, just some stuff. Okay, so what stuff? Yeah, just some stuff, man. Yeah, some coding stuff. Yeah, just some programming stuff. Yeah. They're just quickly to dismiss. Their nervous systems are so jacked up that they can't even have a 2-second conversation that makes them feel uncomfortable. See, the premise of life and the most important thing in life is without discomfort, you're never going to grow. Comfort is cancer. That's what I call it. The moment you feel comfortable in life, granted that I'm not saying you've worked hard and you've made a lot of money and you've got family, you've got kids, that's separate. But if you're young and you've got nothing to your name, comfort is cancer. And the things that you're hiding away from, you know, socializing with people, going out and actually trying things, every single thing that you want to try that makes you feel uncomfortable, the gold lies on the other side. And this is something I had to teach myself, believe it or not, repeating it again. I used to stutter. But now I can sit here and I can record a video and feel very comfortable. And even looking past loneliness, mental health is a thing because primarily people don't know how to communicate. Communication is the foundation of everything. If you're sat in your house right now and you're not getting the things you want and life isn't going your way and there's people that genuinely care about you, one thing I'm going to mention is we underestimate how many people actually care about us. Why do we think that people don't care about us? Because people don't know how to communicate. There's friends right now that genuinely care about each other, but the saddest reality is the only time they are going to say something to each other that is very loving and affectionate is probably when one is sick or one dies. Do you know how sad that is? Simply because we're not at one with each other. We can't message someone or tell our friend, you know, I really appreciate you. Same thing with your family. You know, if you're going through something right now, not all families are bad. We've kind of catastrophized everything in life. We see everything as negative. Everyone's like, yo, you know, if your parents aren't really with you, cut them off. And now you look for many problems in your life so you can justify that negative feeling you have simply because you don't know how to express yourself. There's been many situations. Your dad or your mum will come up to you and say, son or daughter, how's things going? Yeah, good. It's because you're scared of being vulnerable. And as I said, this comes full circle. Most problems in life stem from not being able to communicate. Not being able to communicate and an inability to form healthy boundaries leads to mental health problems, leads to loneliness, leads to poorer salaries, leads to a poorer life quality. So the point I'm making overall, and I've actually had some notes here that I've been glancing at is, you know, all of these problems can be fixed, but it requires intentionality and genuine work. First thing I would say is straight off the bat is change your inputs. Revolutionary to me. Nowadays, and I find it so interesting how, remember back in the days where watching movies or watching YouTube videos, like a 20, 30-minute YouTube video was classed as brain rot. Your parents would tell you, stop watching that, you know, go read a book. Nowadays, watching long-form videos like this is resetting your dopaminergic system, is resetting your system in your mind, which actually allows you to focus a lot better. The point I'm making is when you change your inputs, for example, instead of watching purely entertainment stuff, why don't you watch beneficial things? Maybe listen to a podcast of someone talking about something very interesting. Sit down, listen to the whole entire podcast. Don't look left or right. Try to listen to the way they talk. One thing that I did when I wanted to develop my ability to communicate is I used to really listen to how people speak. I really like how he said that. Let me rewind. Maybe if it's a nice quote or phrase, I'll write it down. I'll try to use it. I'll try to listen to the person's pacing. Do they pause? How do they speak generally? Are they more upbeat, low beat, upward inflections, lower inflections, I should say. When you change your inputs, when you change what you consume, you start picking up on good habits. And when you pick up on these good habits, your brain stores them. Number two, which actually is the biggest difference when it comes to having good mind-to-mouth connection, is journaling, right? I'm a big fan of journaling. Why? The moment you put pen to paper and you write down the things that are on your mind, it doesn't have to make sense, it doesn't have to be coherent, it doesn't have to be chronological, it doesn't have to be structured. Note that down. When you get used to writing, your mental clarity increases tenfold. And when your mental clarity increases, this is why I can sit here, talk to a camera, or someone can ask me something and I can speak about it impromptu. Why? Because my brain has developed this ability to be able to have clear thinking. I can think about one thing at a time. The reason why most people struggle to speak is because they're thinking about a million and one things at once. Your brain is for creating, not for storing. So when you understand that and you internalize that, what ends up happening is the more you write, the more you make it a regular thing, it revolutionizes your life. The reason why I actually had a moment was I've been journaling for the last 5 years, and I noticed that my mental clarity has been increasing, especially over the last 2 years. I've been really journaling properly over the last 2 years. And it's simply because anytime I have clustered thinking, anytime I feel like my mental clarity has gone low, I have a foggy mind, just start writing. I write about anything and everything. If you want a mini breakdown on how to journal, write your emotional state at the top and just blabber for the rest of the page or 2 pages. Then the main aim here is to just dump. When you dump, your brain gets rid of junk. And when your brain gets rid of junk, it's like a breath of fresh air. You're able to think better. You're able to feel better. And then when it comes to actually thinking about your life and moving forward, it's a lot more clearer. And the last thing I would say is learn to speak slower. See, this is an art in of itself. And I'm not saying speak slow forever. You can speak at whatever speed you want, but the reason why speaking slower and incorporating pauses works, and it's like a universal standard across communication, is you'll be surprised how much better your communication gets the moment you just slow down. Someone asks you a question. So tell me about yourself, Dino. That's an interesting question. Pause. So just to give you a bit of a background about myself, I am doing XYZ, blah, 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 blah. When you pause, it's like the world comes to your feet. But what most people tend to do is, hey, Dino, tell me about yourself. Yeah, so basically, and there's 2 problems that happen here. Your mouth, your motor is faster than your brain. So sometimes you speak a lot quicker than you can think. So you're going to reach a moment in the sentence or however long you've been speaking for where what I call a car crash happens, right? It's like you're speaking, your brain hasn't caught up yet, and then you start using fillers. Yeah, so basically, and that's you trying to use that time for your brain to catch up. Doesn't work. And number 2 is, when you speak so fast, you don't breathe in oxygen. So I'll give you a reenactment. So Dino, tell me about yourself. Yeah, so basically, I used to go to university and I actually dropped down. When I dropped out, I was looking for a cool... And when you starve yourself of oxygen, what happens? Your brain gets starved of oxygen. And what is the organ that is actually helping you speak and think about these things? It is your brain. So when you pause, it changes a lot of things. Breathe in. Let the world come to your feet. In the beginning, you're going to have to overcompensate. This is something I teach people. The reason why overcompensation is so important in the beginning is you're going to have to learn to be uncomfortable doing the most. For example, another thing is if you're someone that mumbles a lot, you can overly enunciate words. I used to do this a lot. And that's why when I speak, I sound very clear. I don't mumble my words. You don't have to sit there, go back and say, what did he say? Because I've learned to overly enunciate. The point I'm making is I can make future videos on actual tips when it comes to communicating. But the overall most easy one to follow is just slowing down and pausing. Someone asks you something, if you feel like pausing in the beginning when the person asks you something is very awkward, you can just acknowledge their question. That's an interesting question, by the way. You can pause. That's I've never heard that question before. You can acknowledge the question, there's nothing wrong with it. But the point is, when you rush, the world also makes you feel very anxious. The point I'm making is to wrap up this video is, I really hope that you've listened till the end and you've understood just how important it is to improve your communication skills. Because communication skills affect all areas in your life. If you look at poor people, if you look at people that are struggling, if you look at people that are divorced, if you look at people that are in constant bad situations, look at their ability to communicate. It says a lot. They speak in slangs, fillers. They're not emotionally regulated, which means they always lead with emotions first. These people will not last, and I don't want you guys to be one of them. So all I'm saying is, let's invest in our communication skills. I've got a free community in the description box that you can join and partake in challenges that we've got going on. Pausing challenges, speaking to strangers, and documenting what it is you've learned. And I promise you, however old you are right now, doesn't matter if you're old, doesn't matter if you're young. If you start from today, a year from now, your quality of your life will increase.